What if a patient walked into a hospital and within minutes, the people trying to save her started collapsing? Not from panic, not from chaos, but from something coming off her body. In 1994, nurses drew blood from a woman named Gloria Ramirez, and almost immediately, they felt it. Dizziness, burning, confusion. Then, one of them dropped. Then, another. And another. The room didn't understand what was happening. All they knew was this. Something about her wasn't normal. And whatever it was spreading. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're covering possibly the most bizarre case in the history of medicine. And by the end of this, you'll see why many people don't actually believe the official explanation. If you enjoy videos like this, please consider clicking like and subscribe. And with that said, let's jump right in. The night of February 19th, 1994 started like any other in the busy emergency room of Riverside General Hospital in California. That all changed at 8:15 p.m. when paramedics rushed in a 31-year-old woman named Gloria Ramirez. A wife and mother of two, Gloria was also battling late-stage cervical cancer. On this particular night, her condition had become critical. She was suffering from severe heart palpitations, her breathing was shallow, and her blood pressure was dangerously low. When she arrived at the ER, she was confused and barely able to speak coherently. The ER team, a well-oiled machine of doctors and nurses, sprang into action. To them, it was a familiar, tragic scenario, a young patient critically ill from terminal cancer. They had no reason to think this case would be any different, but they were wrong. As the medical team worked to stabilize her, the first strange details began to emerge. Several staff members noticed an odd, oily sheen on Gloria's skin. They also detected a strange, fruity, garlic-like odor coming from her mouth. In the heat of the moment, these were just minor curiosities. The priority was saving her life. So they gave her drugs to control her heart rate and prepared to use a defibrillator. A registered nurse named Susan Kane drew blood from Gloria's arm, a routine procedure. But as the dark red fluid filled the syringe, a sharp chemical scent, almost like ammonia, hit her. Kane passed the vial to medical resident Dr. Julie Gorczynski, and that's when both saw something that made them stop. Floating inside the vial were strange, manila-colored particles, like tiny crystals. It was something neither had ever seen before. And in that moment, the atmosphere in the ER shifted from controlled urgency to profound confusion. Seconds after seeing the crystals, the scene took a horrifying turn. Nurse Susan Kane, who first smelled the fumes, cried out that her face was burning before her eyes rolled back and she collapsed. Chaos erupted. As staff rushed to help their fallen colleague, Dr. Gorczynski, still holding the vial, felt lightheaded and sick. She stumbled out of the room, but fainted before she could even explain what was wrong. It was a terrifying domino effect. One by one, staff members who had been near Gloria Ramirez started getting sick. A third staffer collapsed and began convulsing. Others complained of shortness of breath, splitting headaches, and uncontrollable muscle spasms. In total, 23 of the 37 ER staff members present that night reported symptoms. The room was thick with fear. What was happening? Was there a toxic gas leak? Was it something on the patient? The ER's attending physician, Dr. Humberto Ochoa, feeling ill himself, made a drastic call: a full evacuation of the emergency room. All patients were moved out to the hospital parking lot. The scene was surreal, as staff, healthy and sick, stripped down to their underwear, stuffing their clothes into biohazard bags. Meanwhile, a skeleton crew in full hazmat suits stayed behind, desperately trying to save Gloria Ramirez. But after another 45 minutes of CPR, it was no use. At 8:50 p.m., just 35 minutes after she arrived, Gloria Ramirez was pronounced dead. The official cause was kidney failure resulting from her advanced cancer. But her death didn't end the crisis. Gloria's body was sealed in an airtight casket as staff were still afraid to go near it. Of the 23 people who got sick, 5 needed to be hospitalized. Dr. Julie Gorchinsky was the most severely affected. She spent 2 weeks in the ICU with hepatitis, pancreatitis, and avascular necrosis, a disease that causes bone tissue to die. The necrosis in her knees was so severe, it left her on crutches for months. The question on everybody's mind was simple but terrifying. How could one person's body do this to an entire ER? An investigation kicked off immediately. A hazmat team swept through the emergency room, testing for toxic gases, but found nothing. The hospital was clean. The focus then shifted to Gloria's body. The autopsy was performed by pathologists in full protective gear, yet it was inconclusive. Toxicology reports found traces of standard medications, but nothing that could explain the bizarre event. With no chemical evidence, Riverside County officials offered their first theory: mass hysteria. They suggested the stress of the situation, triggered by an odd smell, had caused a chain reaction of psychogenic illness. The ER staff, especially those like Dr. Gorchinsky, suffering from severe physical ailments, were outraged. They felt dismissed, convinced there was a real physical reason for their sickness. This initial conclusion only deepened the mystery and fueled the search for a true answer. Frustrated with the mass hysteria theory, the Riverside Coroner's Office contacted Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. In 1997, scientists there proposed a complex chemical theory that remains the most plausible explanation. Their hypothesis centered on a substance called dimethyl sulfoxide, or DMSO. DMSO is a powerful solvent used as a topical home remedy for pain. It's sold as a gel, and when absorbed can cause a distinct garlic-like taste and smell. The scientists theorized that Gloria, desperate to manage her cancer pain, had been rubbing DMSO on her body, which would explain the oily sheen the staff had noticed. Here's what they think might have happened. Gloria's body couldn't get rid of a chemical she'd been using, so it started building up inside her blood. When paramedics gave her oxygen, that chemical may have changed into something else, something that could have turned into crystals. That could explain why nurses saw strange particles in her blood. But the most dangerous part may have come next. When doctors shocked her heart to try to save her, that energy might have triggered a final reaction, turning everything into a toxic gas. A gas strong enough to make people around her feel dizzy, collapse, and even lose consciousness. In other words, they believe her body may have accidentally become a source of poison. At first, this explanation seemed to fit everything. It explained the smell, the crystals, even why people started collapsing. But there's a problem. It's never been proven. And some people don't buy it at all. Gloria's family says she never used anything like that. And if this reaction was possible, why has it never happened again? Some experts also point out the timeline doesn't really add up. Everything happened too fast. So that leaves other possibilities. Some say it was just panic spreading through the room, but that doesn't explain why people were seriously affected, even hospitalized. Others believe something else was going on entirely, like chemicals being handled inside the hospital, and then something went wrong. Gloria's family even suspected the hospital itself, that this wasn't the first incident and that something was being covered up. But no theory fully explains everything, and that's what makes this case so unsettling. 2 months later, Gloria Ramirez was finally buried. Her official cause of death? Cancer, not a toxic event. Lawsuits from her family and hospital staff were eventually dismissed. But the questions never went away. Decades later, this case is still unexplained. The leading theory sounds convincing, but it's still just a theory. And that leaves one disturbing possibility: that somehow, a dying woman's body became something dangerous enough to take down the people trying to save her. What do you think happened in that ER? Was it a freak chemical reaction, mass hysteria, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, click right here to watch one that is even more disturbing. And if you enjoyed the video, please consider clicking like and subscribe. With that said, I hope you have a great night. Peace.